Hello all and welcome back. I hope everyone is doing really well. Interesting video again today as we look at some information from across the cryptocurrency space in terms of where we're heading in Q4 of 2023 and the likelihood of a resurgence in the markets themselves. And not only that, some different announcements from across the Hedera ecosystem as well, as we continue to see the building behind the scenes ramping up, which will put us in a very, very good position moving forward into 2024. News just in though, the $4.5 trillion asset manager Fidelity has said that Bitcoin is the most secure, decentralized, sound digital money compared to any other digital asset that currently exists. Now, I'm not interested per se in them talking about Bitcoin as a dominant asset in the crypto space per se, but them themselves saying that it is a secure, decentralized, sound digital money asset in general is something to be very bullish on, and is the general narrative we have seen across 2023 with many of these asset managers with trillions of dollars under management looking to move into the cryptocurrency space at the earliest available opportunity. And it will be a watershed or tidal wave kind of moment. Once the switch gets flicked and they have the ability to move into these markets, we will literally see billions upon billions enter. And that's all that can really be said about it. Jumping across though, something that I wanted to touch upon was where we think the markets are going. And of course, we tend to look at Bitcoin as the main driver, as of course it leads in terms of dominance. Something interesting here from Ben Cohen, obviously into the cryptoverse over on Twitter and on YouTube. Last cycle, Bitcoin dominance topped out at the fib retracement level of 0.618, which was around 73% Bitcoin dominance. This cycle, a 0.618 fib retracement level is around 60%. And if I flick over again to TradingView, we can see currently we're only at a 51.25% in terms of Bitcoin dominance. So based on what Ben is effectively saying, is we could see the rest of the cryptocurrency market continue to bleed out aggressively until we hit a Bitcoin dominance level of around 60%. Now, will this happen? Potentially. And the moves towards the downside may actually not be as aggressive as you would think for a move of 50 to 60% in terms of the Bitcoin dominance itself, because prices have already fallen so aggressively since the previous all-time highs that we saw earlier on last year. Nevertheless, this still gives an indication as to where the markets will continue to head throughout 2024, potentially, which could be towards the downside. Now, I do believe at some point we will see a momentum shift though, where we do begin to move in that crabbing channel up towards the top right as we look at price graphs themselves. The equities markets have had quite a bad couple of months anyway, and actually the first 10 days of October haven't been so great for the equities markets, as there's a lot of frothiness at the moment as they are still waiting for the Fed terminal interest rates, something that has plagued us for the last 18 months or so since those rate hikes began. We are all waiting for the terminal interest rates for the risk on asset signal to return. Something that's also reflected as well though in the crypto fear and greed index. I've showed this multiple times on the channel in the past. It's a good gauge of sentiment for the markets themselves. Last month we saw fear, and apparently now we're in neutral territory. And again, I've said before, CoinMarketCap has their own measure of this particular metric. Interesting that we're only seeing neutral across the board, considering how much of a bleed out we have seen in general. Typically in the neutral to fear and extreme fear zones are great times to average into prices. That being said, actually looking at the price of HBAR at the moment, I think we're around the original price of the SAFT 2 investments, of really early investments. I think SAFT 1 might have been around 1 cent, but the SAFT 2 investments were around the 4 cents mark, something like that, it averaged out at, I believe. So at the moment, we're effectively seeing bargain basement prices on a lot of these different altcoins that only early, large scale investors would have been able to tap into previously from when these projects originally launched. Something to bear in mind if you're looking to pick up some tokens at the moment, whilst the crypto markets themselves are an all-time low in terms of, volume of interactions on socials, etc. Looking at Hedera in a bit more detail at the moment though, some great announcements from SuperSwap Labs I wanted to cover. New milestone alert in terms of 500 liquidity pools across the platform itself. And that comes as news after they've just had their audits wrapped up by Omnicia the SourceSwap V2 concentrated liquidity market maker model, which of course I've got a dedicated video on the channel explaining what those changes are and how they will operate. So I'll leave that link down in the description for you guys, and there'll probably be an annotation on screen at some point for you to check that out. I will be doing a dedicated video once that does go live as well, because it is going to be a fantastic change for not only SourceSwap Labs, its platform as a decentralized exchange, but of course being a pioneering decentralized exchange on Hedera, it opens a lot of opportunity. The core audit and the periphery audits are complete, and the full reports are available down below. I will leave those linked down below, but they were successful audits and it's all looking great for V2. They've also unveiled their V2 UI, so we can see here some slight tweaks over what we currently have. Key highlights being seamless transition between V1 and V2. Like I said, some subtle changes. Again, don't worry too much. I'll be doing a dedicated video once this goes live. Fully integrated token and pool analytics, as well as a refined UI for effortless liquidity management. SourceSwap V2 web app is engineered from scratch. There are no forks here, which of course gives them the ultimate amount of flexibility and customizability when it comes to designing their user experience and interfaces. Something seriously to bear in mind. Of course, they've got the talent to back it up, because we can see that in the web app itself. We're seeing more and more demos as well from Citadel Wallet. It's been a while since I've spoken about these guys over on the channel, but of course they are building a hardware wallet which specifically focuses on servicing the HBAR ecosystem, or the Hedera Hashgraph ecosystem itself. They're harnessing Hedera's power with the hardware wallet and will fully support all services such as associating NFT IDs, sending and receiving NFTs, stake, unstake, and changing nodes, etc. Several different demos that are currently available now on Twitter. I think everyone's very, very excited about seeing this launch, myself included. So we'll see how this continues to develop, but it's great. Hedera itself, last week, Africa's largest startup and payments giant, the Flutterwave, valued at around $3 billion US, showcased their USDC merchant settlement solution built on top of Hedera with support from the Hashgraph Association's Hashgraph Enterprise program. Again, another major milestone for use cases being developed on Hedera itself. This goes hand in hand with the likes of the stablecoin dev toolkit, effectively, that got launched. Did a video on that previously a couple of weeks back. I think it was the last video on the channel. And of course, again, this is all about that interoperability on Hedera itself. Hedera are effectively building something that almost becomes a one-stop solution with no barriers to entry, effectively, of utilizing and leveraging Web 3.0. This is, of course, very important for a myriad of different reasons itself, but Lehman himself actually explains this very succinctly in around a 45-second clip, which I'll play for you guys now, but it explains why effectively all the services behind the scenes of Web 3.0 need to be completely seamless before we see mass adoption into the cryptocurrency space. So I'll play this for you guys now.
You start with Web 2, and then you have a Web 3 that's in the background and invisible behind the Web 2. And then there are many things where it can't be invisible. You actually know that you have a token. You make it easy then for users to create tokens. And so you have some program that helps them create something, and then there's just a button that says, hey, would you like to make a token out of it? Now that's pure Web 3, but it's so easy, such a no-brainer, you just push the button and you're done. And we have to have key recovery being automatic and a no-brainer. All these things have to be easy. This is the future we have to get to, where for developers and for startups and for enterprises and for end users, it is incredibly smooth and easy and safe. We also have to make sure they can avoid the frauds and the scams and all those things in our industry. And this is part of what it means for our industry to mature.
So as Lehman effectively summarized there, Hedera is building everything behind the scenes for it to be a completely seamless integration. Think about how banks work in the modern era across, for example, Europe. Everything is happening behind the scenes. You are literally just tapping a few different buttons and things are going from A to B, or any other kind of services infrastructure, Web 2 infrastructure that we see. You know, you log into accounts, you can post stuff. You have no idea what is effectively running the tech stack behind the scenes itself. And that is the point of which we need to get to cryptocurrencies, or with cryptocurrencies such as Hedera, before we see mass adoption. He obviously touched on as well things like account recovery, etc. And there's a nice new announcement from Hashback I'll round up on in a minute, where we're not per se account recovery, but getting closer and closer to stuff along those lines. Nice thread here from 𝗟𝗜𝗡𝗞𝗦 as well. One of the original Web3 visions was banking the bankless. Some networks attracted a lot of capital from this narrative. Fewer have made steps to achieve it. Of course, Hedera and HBAR more specifically, this vision is steadily becoming a reality. MTech, who I've covered on the channel many times in the past, is working with the Bank of Ghana and YPay's Caribbean unit under the YCoin via Vault network. Look to the networks actively building the narratives, not just helping write them. And you keep your eyes on AMDSGH. The highest value startup in Africa is integrating Hedera's USDC from Circle, obviously helping to bank the bankless. Rounding up then, that Hashback wallet announcement was one of the newest updates, and you have the ability now to rekey accounts. This update adds a much requested feature, the ability to change the keys on an account. So in the advanced tools section of the menu, you will find the rekey tool. This will guide you through the process of generating a new seed phrase for your account. Please note you will need to update any other wallets where this account was imported after changing the keys. And of course, must stress, make sure you know what you're doing if you're going to be doing a reseed. But it's a good thing to do just in case you think your seed phrase has been leaked and someone may have access to the wallet. You can obviously re-seed phrase or rekey that particular wallet itself. Other updates: remove old Dovu from the quick associate list because of course we've got a new token, fixed invalid decimal errors when sending tokens, updated available fiat currencies, fixed some other NFT and thumbnails on Android, and several other updates as well. Anyway guys, hopefully you did enjoy this video. As I mentioned, there isn't a ton of content to be covering at the moment across in the crypto space, and I don't want to just put videos out for the absolute sake of it unless there is something to cover. The next video will likely be the SaucerSwap V2 launch, where I will do an in-depth video, as I've always done, on decentralized apps that are important to the Hedera ecosystem. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that video. Feel free to leave a comment, and always, I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.